Okay, this is a video on building a floating boat deck. I built this deck about 3 years ago. You can see for the winter I got it pulled in tight to shore. I live in southern Michigan, so you got to deal with the ice. But I'll explain why I did that in a minute. But when I moved to this house about 3 years ago, and they had a floating dock, and it was made by a company called Candock. And you can see all these floats underneath there. Well, I just used the same floats, but I just built the wooden deck above them, and I just used the floats to hold it up. As you can see, it's a beautiful dock. I mean, I live on a small lake. You can see the whole thing. There's only about, I think, about 80 homes on the lake. And I tell you what, this is the nicest dock on the lake. And the way I built it is I built it in sections. The poles are pretty much at the end of each section. So each section is 5 by 8, and I built 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then the end, that little part, that little L-shaped part, that was an 8 by 8 section on that. And that piece right there, that's actually I added later. I added that the following year, because what I did, this is a little piece of aluminum dock. It was here. Oh man, there's a nice bass right there. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. Well, that's about a 16, 17 incher. But this piece I just leave in for the winter. And okay, what I do with this first section is them poles there. I have a cross piece in the poles, and then this part right here. I can't see it. But I got these little brackets, and then on the cross piece on the poles, I got these little brackets, and this end just rests on that. And the other end, there again, it's kind of hard to do. I didn't plan on doing this video today, but it's such a nice day. Usually the problem you got out here is it's always windy, and today there's no wind, so I decided to do it. Okay, these brackets right here, they attach to these brackets right here. And what that does, okay, there's no poles on that piece, and what it does is that pivots. The lake I'm on has no creek coming in and no creek going out, so the water level fluctuates quite a bit. I mean, in 1 year you can get a foot and a half fluctuation in the water height. And what was happening is the floating dock, of course, you got to, you know, it's on the surface, so it raises and lowers, and sometimes it was a big step to get up to it. Well, this piece right here eliminates that. And so that it'll just pivot. You know, when the dock is up here, you know, if the dock comes up, this piece will just pivot up to it, you know, and it makes a lot smoother transition. People aren't tripping getting on the dock and everything. So, but I'll post a couple pictures of when I built it. I didn't really take some clear ones, but here's a couple that I took. And those pictures are before I put the deck on it, of course. But I made a couple mistakes. You know, I couldn't really find much on the internet about it, on YouTube. So I kind of just did what I thought would be a good idea. And I did make some mistakes. And that's why I made this video, is maybe help somebody not make the same mistakes I did. Okay, what I did is, like I said, I built this in 5 by 8 sections. And then I just bolted them all together. I put between each section, I put big 1/2-inch lag or carriage bolts in there, and I thought that would hold it. Well, it didn't. What happened is the boards on the end were just screwed into the sideboards here, you know, over time and everything, and they start loosening up. And last year I noticed the dock was really getting kind of shaky. And so what I had to do when I pulled it in this winter, I added, these are 2x10s. The original boards I used for the side of the dock is 2x8s, but these are 2x10s, which, to be honest, I really don't remember why I went with 2x10s. That 2x8s probably would have been all right. But what I did, okay, like here's a joint. The 5x8 section ends about right here. Okay, this overlaps it halfway to the next section, so it eliminates that flex in it. So what I should have done when I built the dock is did that right off immediately, you know, and that would have solved a lot of headaches. And this thing, I tell you what, this basically is just one big solid dock. I mean, it doesn't flex at all anymore. And then like this section is separate from this section, and here's the joint right here. Actually, you can kind of see it between the boards there. What I would have done too is add another piece, add another 2x8 in here, and like the joint from this piece to this piece is right here. It goes this way, so that would have put another board here, and that would have made this more rigid. But I didn't put that one in it this winter, but whatever, I think that'll be all right. So, but that was one mistake I made. The other mistake I made was on the dock poles. You can see the brackets. You know, they're just the 2-hole brackets and dock poles. These are the good ones. What I originally put in is these corner brackets that go, you know, 2 bolts on this side and 2 bolts on the other side. Do not use those. I ended up taking them all off. When I redid this dock this fall, I had to pull all the poles out. I mean, it was a lot of freaking work. I was out here for 2 days fixing this stupid thing. And the reason the L-shaped brackets didn't work is because the bottom, you know, I made sure the top of the boards were even. Well, the bottoms would be off just a little bit. And I mean, I'm talking like 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch, but it was enough to make the bracket crooked. And the end of the dock is probably in about 6 feet of water. And when you lower the pole down, if the bracket is crooked, the poles are going to go down crooked. So now if your lake doesn't fluctuate at all, and you know, you don't have to worry about adjusting the height of the dock. I mean, it probably wouldn't be that big a deal, but I do, you know, usually 2 or 3 times a year I got to adjust the height of the dock by loosening all these screws here, and then you know, I loosen them all up, you know, let it go down or up, whatever it has to do. Usually it goes down in the summertime. You're always lowering it, you know, get it all at the right height, and then lock them all down again. So that would be another thing, is don't use them corner brackets, man. They're a nightmare. So, but let me show you the floats I used. Okay, these are the floats I used. These things, the way they're designed is with these little ears. The next float just goes over it, and there's like a little nut, and there's like a big thing that spins there, and that locks them all together. And this is made by a company called Candock. I think there's a couple other companies that make them. But when I got here, like I said, this is the dock I had. They just used that. And so I just took the whole thing apart and just used these as floats. And on each 5x8 section, I used 8 floats. 4 on one side and 4 on the other. But they were good. They're a little pricey. You know, I got lucky. I got them for free. But so I'll post a picture of the original dock. But all right, that's about it. Just hopes this helps somebody. Kind of wish there's a video out here like this before I did it. You know, if you live in an area that doesn't have a freezing problem, you can probably use the square dock floats. Okay, what it is, in here in Michigan, here we got to deal with ice. So if you look at the bottom of the dock, these are rounded, And if you use the rounded ones, rounded bottom ones, the ice ain't gonna hurt them. The square ones will get crushed. But if you live in an area that freezing isn't a problem, I mean, you can use just about any floats you want. The other ones are a lot cheaper than what I used. So, but getting back to why I pull the dock in the winter, what happens in the spring when the ice thaws is sometimes the wind will be coming from like me out to the lake, and it'll push, it'll kind of thaw around the edges of the lake and it'll push the ice to the far side of the lake. And then if the wind switches around the other way, I got this big freaking ice sheet coming right at me, and all that pressure, the poles will only hold it so much, but all that pressure gets pushed right here. And all that pressure from all that ice pushing on it ends up in one little spot on my seawall. And I'm always worried my seawall is going to give in. You can see how the ice kind of kicked this thing sideways a little bit. But I'm about getting ready to turn this dock. It's not hard. I mean, the poles are only down in there about a foot. On the bottom of each pole, I got one of them screw-in auger things. And they're only down, not far, about a foot at most. So I probably have the thing done, move back where it should go in a couple hours. But, all right. Like I said, I hope that helps somebody. So, have a good day.